What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Limitless Business Owners Podcast. My name is Andrew Georgie, and I'm here with my co-host of the podcast, Dan Fisher. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, first of all, we want to welcome you. Okay, we're super excited to be on this journey, this business owner journey with you, and help you along the way. Okay, our whole goal with this podcast and really our passion in life is to bring the everyday business owner content and stories they can relate to, and also fresh new perspectives, fresh new mindsets, new thoughts, new ideas, strategies, tactics to help you grow your business. Okay, if you take one thing out of each episode and start implementing it into your life and business today, we promise you're going to start seeing massive growth. Let's hop into the show. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Limitless Business Owners Podcast. We have an awesome guest this week, someone that's building what I would consider an absolute automotive empire south of St. Louis, Missouri. I would bet that he's affecting the St. Louis region altogether. He's someone that I look up to personally, not just as a business owner, but just how he lives his life. He's a true leader to all those around him, truly serves those, all his employees, his family, his community. Probably the hardest worker I've ever seen. He's still, 4 businesses in, and he's probably still putting in long days. Someone else that is super savvy, business savvy, and extremely resourceful. I'm excited to have Justin Bondurant on the show. Justin, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. It's humbling for sure, but I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, if you know Justin, he is the man, like for real. He gets after it, and it's exciting watching all his growth. Really, I know it's been years and years in the making. You've been at this for a long time, but really kind of the last, 2 or 3 years, things have exploded for sure.
It's blown up,
You know, and he's always putting a new building up. There's always a new building going up, and
we just finished one yesterday.
Yeah,
actually.
So. Nice. And I would bet he already has like somewhere in a notebook, another building that he wants.
Yeah, I'm looking at property right now.
That's amazing, man. Well, hey, Justin, I know you have an awesome story. I don't think I've heard your full story either with, how you started J&B, your transition from what you did before business owner life into business owner life, and kind of hear the rise of your automotive empire down here in Hillsboro. So really the floor is yours, man. Whatever you want to include, we might pop in and chime in with some questions.
Sure. Awesome. So 2003, 4, I got a new one of those little Dodge SRT 4 neons, little turbo neons, and I was cheap, really. And so I saw what some of the other people out in the market were making for parts. I was wrapping up a business degree in college at UMSL. I got my bachelor's degree, and literally in May, as I was graduating, I sold my first product. So this is pre your days here, Georgie. This is back where this is like MySpace era.
I think I was like 11.
And so that's when there's internet forums, pre-Facebook. So on the forums, people put up their pictures of their cars or modifications they made or whatever. So I put some pictures up, and I really didn't intend to do it to sell parts originally, but I had people ask, hey, would you make me one of those? And so it kind of just took off. So the first, that was in May of 2004. And then by September-ish of 2004, I actually quit my full-time job. I had just bought a house. I just got married. Wow. Life was real, but I was also 21, 22. So I was naive and dumb enough to think that like, what could go wrong? Let's just do it. So, it just started there. So I started, I was working in Dad's, me and Dad had built a 900 square foot shop in High Ridge at the time. And or right before that, so I was working out of there every day, and it was just kind of cool, like doing my own thing in my own pace and doing some side work. Yeah. And so that just kind of took off and grew, and we ended up really outgrowing that pretty quickly. Maybe within about 2 years, I finally hired somebody. We moved to a new city and built another building. that was bigger, went from 900 square foot to 2,500 square foot, and then hired a couple more people there, and just kind of was learning and going at my own pace. It wasn't explosive, but it was enough that I could pay my bills, and I had a couple cool toys and that kind of stuff, and just kind of living the young dream there in your early 20s, no kids, and no real responsibilities. I'm married, but no, lived a single or kid-free lifestyle. Yeah. So did that for till probably 08, 09, and I started doing dismantling vehicles. Actually, what happened was I was trying to fix certain cars, and then parts were hard to get, and so then I would end up just buying a whole wrecked car instead, and then just taking what I wanted off that, and then selling the rest. Well, again, back to the forums days, so it's free Facebook Marketplace, and so it was kind of eBay and forums selling parts, and that worked out pretty well. Where I had this shop was at my dad's house, and that we had built, and I had literally had his attic packed, like where the drywall was busted, like all the way down the center of the attic. And Dad finally, and I had cars outside everywhere, and this is his house, and he's like, "You need to do something else. Like, this is not working for me. This is my home." And so in about 2013, 2014, we started looking for property, and ended up buying the property we're at today in Hillsborough. It's about a mile south of BN21. But so bought this property and built a building. I called my bank up and said, "Hey, am I crazy here? Like I want to buy a piece of property and build a building that's more my house. I went through a divorce and some other stuff at that time, and so it was kind of rebuilding everything, and new family life, and remarried, and so it was, is my wife going to put up with this stuff and all that? But she's an awesome woman and encourager, and she said, "Go for it. I trust you. You haven't let us wrong yet." And so we built the first building was 6,200 square foot. And really, by the time we finished that, and again, it was more than my house that we lived in at the time. And by the time we finished that, we were broke. We had made, and this kind of goes with our story anyway of who we are, but we had made some commitments to our church and some giving commitments, and literally it got to the point that we had maxed out every single personal credit card, every single business credit card, every penny that they would give us on the loan. I mean, to the penny. I mean, if they gave us X dollars, and we spent every penny they gave us, and and anything that we could come up with there, scratch up for money, we used it. All of our savings. I mean, it got to a point that my wife was like, "Hey, we need to go grocery shopping." I'm like, "Hey, we're not going grocery shopping." I'm like, "There's no money.
We're going to Aldi's today. That's what we're doing."
Yeah. So we got to that point, but I think being faithful in our giving and committing to our giving and not wavering off that, that was, it's like we said we're going to do this, and part of our story is we really did, no joke, we would write checks on Sunday that if they cashed on Monday, they would bounce. And no one wants to be the guy that bounces.
Right.
So, but something, God would just intervene, and something amazing would happen, and we have testimony. I could fill up this whole podcast with testimonies about how God moved the finances, but it was so cool that our faithfulness, not only to the project and to finishing the project, no matter what, even if it was incredibly financially painful, but also our faithfulness to, the commitments that we've made. We persevered, we pushed through. I think we finished the building in October of 14, and I think I was completely debt-free minus the mortgage within about 2 years.
Wow.
And we put $100,000 in.
Wow.
So just to see that, I went out and bought a new car as my celebration. I kind of made every month I just had a checklist of I'm going to pay this much on the Amex, this much on the Chase, and this much on the Capital One, this much on the U.S. Bank. I just had a checklist and just kept being diligent and just keeping after it, and got completely debt free, completely caught up on my taxes, all my prepayments on my taxes, like all the stuff that I had put off, because I didn't have any money to give, so I didn't have money to put into that stuff, but took care of all of it, and so it was cool. To see that pay off, and within, that was in, I think, late 16 is when we got to that point, and by early 18, we were building another 6,900 square foot shop, building a new home, building an apartment for my mom and dad, building a 2,500 square foot garage for our personal stuff, and and just kept at it, and it was hard. And I had, we went from when we moved here in 14, I had 3 employees, and so by this time I probably had 7, 8, 9 employees at the most, and so for me to leave and be out all day running on the skid steer, all day putting flooring in at the house or whatever it had to be, to make it happen. But that was definitely a season of being completely all in, but being completely exhausted at the end. Where at the end of it, literally our friends would be like, "Hey, can we come see your new house?" And it was like, no. Me and my wife had a no. There was not a yes to anything, because we had to take 3-4 months off of doing nothing, literally nothing. I would just come home from work and just lay on the couch and just stare at the ceiling for 4 hours and fall asleep, because we just mentally had nothing at all left. We had to recover from that. But because we were 20 months of building all those buildings nonstop. Every single day, every single night, 7 days a week. I was there putting flooring at 11 o'clock at night. I'd be at 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'd be back at work in the morning. So, but it was good. It's a good, we got through it. And in the end, obviously, we're way ahead on our home and our finances and all that because of our diligence in there. But built that building. The new building was for doing that salvage stuff. So as J&B does the performance stuff, and we started a new business called Salvage Street. I had a good friend of mine, Zach, who he had come on staff about 6 months before the building was done, kind of trained and built a team. And so we got in that new building and just hit the ground running, and started this new venture, this new business, something we had done for almost 10 years at that point, but we had just done it on the side kind of thing. So, and we had, behind J&B, I had shipping containers, blue ball parts, couldn't walk in them. You open the door and it was like a cartoon, parts falling on top of you. And so we did that for a few months, or did that for about, I think that was in 2019, and then in 2020, right at March 2020, right when COVID starts, we officially opened up our dealership. So that kind of came from an experiment of, what would happen if we were caught up again, we paid paid the credit cards off and built the next building, kind of like in a pretty decent place. What if we bought some cars at the auction, put a transmission in it, fix the engine, whatever it might need to make it a nice car for somebody, and sold it. We're selling it on the side of a building, but would that work? And it worked. We sold, started with 6, sold all 6, made decent money on them. And I was like, hey, this is kind of easy to sell one thing instead of dismantling a vehicle and selling 100 things. You can sell one thing to one person. So in March, we started the dealership officially March 2020. Me and Zach convinced a friend of ours that lived in Virginia to move back to the St. Louis area. That's where he was originally from, and move him and his family back. And when he started, we had 5 cars for sale when he started in March 2020. Wow. So he's going to be our new salesman. He leaves his 6-figure salary. And I think that's a testimony to how good we can cast.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
But he leaves his 6-figure salary, comes here, and he's our car sales guy. And that's kind of where that started. We went to sell 50 cars our first year. realistic expectations. We actually sold 100 on the dot.
Wow.
And it was about $1.5 million in cars, which our best year ever at J&B to this point was probably around 1.3 million. So basically doubled our sales in 1 year. And so then we had 21 last year, phenomenal year. We ended up buying a building, completely renovating it. And I mean, completely renovating. I'm talking about moving like thousands of tons of excavation and everything, outside, and creating parking lots and creating block walls and everything new. The building, we literally kept the sides and the roof and everything else. I mean, we literally knocked all, well, actually we only kept 3 of the sides. We can knock the sides completely down and start over. So did that huge reno, finished that up. We bought that in July 1st of 2021, finished that up a couple months ago, had a grand opening a few weeks ago. Finally pretty much done up there with what we're doing. But phenomenal year last year. We did, like all the companies combined, did over $8 million in sales. The year before was 3.1. So I mean, huge increase in sales. And this year, actually, right before this podcast online to see where we're at, but we're already at $5 million in cars. We sold just cars, sold, not
awesome.
Businesses, nothing else. We're already at $5 million in sales for the year, on track for 10 plus, and so it's been crazy. It's been phenomenal. I've got unbelievable team. I mean, like unbelievable. I've hired everybody from our church.
You have
going to work for me, and I think there's about 10 or 12 people that go to our church. And that kind of goes with just hiring people on character, and that's one of those things we really are learning. Hiring people based on their character and personality, and not hiring over the skills. And I've got some testimonies with that too that I could possibly share. But it's been awesome. It's been an awesome ride. It's there's never a dull moment. I'm learning daily. We make mistakes, not usually daily, but we make some mistakes consistently, because that's what you do. And if you're not making mistakes, then you're not trying. You're not trying stuff. But so it's been awesome. I've got no regrets. I've got an amazing team right now. I mean, could not ask for more solid people.
Right.
I can go on vacation for a week and it functions just like I'm here. It's exciting. Yeah. We're doing new things. We're always trying to push the envelope of, literally we don't stop we don't finish one thing before we're already on the next. We just closed or finished a storage building for all of our high-end vehicles. We 6,000 square foot storage building that finished up Monday. Concrete's still just about wet.
Right.
It's good. It's been really good. Super blessed, man, for sure. So.
That's unreal. That amount of growth. And Justin, one thing, I know we've talked a little bit in the past, but I think it's amazing. A lot of people won't take that risk, right? But it's like you stayed obviously committed to what you were committed to throughout the process, but each step was like a launching pad for the next step.
Definitely,
so if you don't build the building, you can't crank more work out through J&B.
Sure.
Which then you couldn't do Salvage Street, and then you couldn't do the dealership.
Yeah.
It's like one thing, and it's not like you started with the vision of like, hey, I'm going to have a dealership when you started this puppy 10 plus years ago,
18 years we've been in business now doing something. So, and just the ability to pivot. We've got a guy that was interested in working for us maybe a year ago or something. He expressed some interest in working here. We kind of worked over a takeover plan for him. He has to get a decent salary, because he was quitting a good job to come here, but he really had a desire to do motorcycle stuff. And he's super sharp. But we literally launched a motorcycle business in the South Street building about 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, because of this one person. But now, we just hired 4 people in the last 3 weeks. One of them's working for him. He already has staff under him. He's been here maybe 6 months, and he's already got staff underneath him, helping him do his thing. And then he's got Ben's always helping him too, really helping him like launch his deal. So, but it was the ability to like, hey, we have this resource. We have kind of everything else in place. I mean, we're already selling car parts, we're already for service. Why can't we add this? I mean, why can't it be its own standalone thing?
Yeah.
And not to say that, I mean, we're not raking in the dough today with it. I can say that, but it's profitable this year. I guarantee.
Nice.
That's a good first start.
And I have no involvement.
Yeah.
I put 5 hours a month, maybe. I mean, I really have just no investment in it other than some financial investment, but I have no investment from a time standpoint.
Right.
So just with that ability to pivot and say, okay, here's something that's going to work. Mm-hmm. Got the right people, got the right whatever, and the opportunity is there. Let's make it happen. Mm-hmm. So, but I think having that mindset of always what's next and what can we tweak here and what can we make better. And I know it annoys some of my staff. Since I had a meeting today about how do we make our Facebook better, and how do we make, how can we add this, how can we add that. And I know it gets a little annoying at times for people, but I feel like it's what's necessary to keep growing, to keep getting better, keep improving. Like everything with excellence is definitely something that you'll hear around here. Like everything with excellence, everything. I mean, how you take the trash out with it. Like, and we teach that to our employees. Like we've got people that have started here as guys that pick up the trash, guys that sweep the floor. And I've told them, like, if you ever want to move past this point, you have to prove to me that you can take out the trash with excellence, you can clean the floor with excellence, you can everything that you do, you can restock the toilet paper with excellence. Yeah. Because if you can't do those things with excellence, why am I going to trust you to work on somebody's car?
Absolutely.
My God, we can get all the liability involved with that. So everything has to be done with excellence, from the most mundane things to the highest things up. So not that we always achieve that,
It's the goal.
But I mean, that needs to be the mindset, needs to be the goal, needs to be on your mind all the time.
Absolutely.
So
where does, in Dan, I know, you could probably relate to this too, but it seems like, Justin, you're always looking for opportunities, like always, like, and that's probably easier to spot those opportunities now, right now that you have some, but even early on, you're probably spotting out opportunities. What keeps you staying hungry like that? Like, I feel like some people get complacent when they hit a certain level. They say this is good enough, but where does that hunger come from?
I don't know. I don't know that I have.
And I know that wasn't in the notes.
I think part of it's character.
Yeah.
I think it's seeing it work. Like, hey, I did this and it worked. Like, why can't I do this over here? I had somebody that I definitely had have major respect for, and they were in a place that, far ahead of me, I felt in certain ways, from a spiritual standpoint, certainly. And they asked me one time, like, how do you just do that? Like, how do you just say, okay, well, we're going to build a building, or we're going to quit our job and go do this. Like, how did you get to that point? I'm like, I don't know. I just I looked and, hey, this guy over here did it. Like, I can do it if he can do it. I guess I just have that mentality of it's possible. Like, if I'm gonna take calculated risks. I'm not gonna take foolish risks.
Right.
But it's possible. Yeah. To just step out and now I'm almost spoiled with it because it works. And there's not much that we've done here in the last 18 years that hasn't worked. We've pivoted a lot for sure, but there's not much that hasn't worked. And anytime that we talk to a bank, talk to, whatever about expanding our potential, assets that we can have or doing a new thing or whatever, and they look at our numbers and they're like, well, you're doing things in this industry that other people don't do. I mean, in the car industry, it's very common for 1 out of 10 to lose money, for your numbers to be per vehicle to be less than ours or whatever. And so they ask us all the time, like, how are you doing these things? It's like, well, we don't care what the norm is. We don't care what other people are doing. We're going to use that as a guide, but I don't care if people don't put numbers on their windshield for what the price is. I don't really care. If I feel like it's the best choice to do, or we as a team feel like it's the best choice to do, it's what we're going to do. But I think that's part of the not worrying so much about what other people are doing and doing what works for you. And that's kind of the beat around bush answer to what you asked. But having that mentality of like, it's let's just try it. Let's see if it works. And if it doesn't work, let's learn something from it.
Yeah.
It's not always going to work, but let's at least learn something from it. I mean, if we lose $5,000 trying this, that might have saved us $50,000 down the road trying something else on a bigger scale. We might learn that lesson there that's worth learning at that price.
Yeah, right.
I hate losing, but every lesson is, every time you lose, there's a lesson one way or another.
Right? So. Absolutely. And no, I mean, even as the leader, you're setting the pace, because you're willing to, and it's evident you've put the work in for years. I'm sure you were probably the first guy in on the renovation every morning, so it's like setting the pace as a leader is just a trickle down effect probably into all your employees. So now they just go and take care because you're modeling that, it's so important to model that. I think sometimes leaders can end up saying, hey, I have a team, I can back off, and I'm sure there's.
I totally see what you're saying. But I think setting the pace and being, I get that quite a bit. Like, it's funny because I walk around the property and no one has ever guessed that I'm the owner. But Jason that works for me, who's dressed nicer than me and is a little more proper than me and whatever, he constantly gets it. But I think that goes back to the comment I get quite a bit from my employees, like, hey man, I've never worked with somebody who's in the trenches with us the way that you are. Like, you have no problem sweeping the floor. You have no problem replacing the toilet paper, replacing the paper towels. You have no problem doing the mundane that you could hire anybody to do any of that. But I think that there's humility in that of like, hey, I'm not better than anybody. And that's something that's been learned from me, I can assure you, but having that attitude of humility and but I think it also shows people like, hey, I can relate to this because I'm right here with you. I can get dirty and greasy and whatever. And maybe I can offer a tip on how to do that a little bit better because I've done it for 18 years and done it for 2 years.
Right.
But I think that there's a lot of value in that of if you're in management, if you're in leadership, then unfortunately, for me, it's unfortunate. I can't stand office time, but it's there's a lot of office time, but getting out there and being with the people and of the people and like, hey, I'll get my hands dirty. I'll help you hold this. I'll help you pick up that. I'll help you do whatever, and showing that you're on the same level with them. You're not better than them. You're nothing like that. I think there's a lot of value in that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of, we've had a few very high level business owners and CEOs on the podcast so far, and they all say the same thing. It's a trait, that marks a high level leader and high functioning leader, so, thank you for modeling that for other business owners. Cause that's lost by many, another thing that I'm kind of pulling out of, when you're talking, Justin, is it's very easy to when someone's looking to take risks, they think like, what can I lose? Like, it's always on the loss side. And granted, we have to say calculated risk, yes, but they don't bet on themselves. How many times have you had to bet on yourself and say, obviously many times, but has that ever crossed your mind? Like, I'm betting on myself to make this better. While there's dealerships that lose money every month, I'm betting on myself. We're going to build a dealership that makes money every month.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the day to day. And I think that's part of the diligence and of doing, just not giving up. And I mean, there's times that it's hard. I mean, I've had weeks where, you lose money, maybe the employee, uh, you know, you're, you kick the dog on the way out of the house, your wife's arguing with you, but just to like stop and like, okay, could be worse. We're okay. Let's regroup. Let's learn from these things, and let's push forward and be better. And but that betting on yourself, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of people that don't. I have that ingrained in me of being like, I can do it. I can push through. Like I'm going the distance, no matter how painful it is, no matter how much it sucks. I'm going to make it there. That's ingrained in me. But I understand it not being there.
Yeah.
And needing the encouragement and needing, So the betting. I mean, my recommendation for somebody that's in that position of just not knowing, like, man, can I do this? Take a step out and do it. I mean, and give it everything you got, because there's regret from not doing it. I have regret from things I didn't do, but I don't regret anything I did, even if they weren't wins. I still don't regret them because I learned from them. So, take the step out, make calculated decisions. Use knowledge, use wisdom, use people around you. But I mean, one of the definitely recommendation I would make. I was building my home. I had never built a residential structure ever in my life. I've done like commercial stuff a couple times. But what did I do? I went out and bought 3 of my friends lunch or dinner that had just built homes fairly recently, or general contractor themselves or whatever. But like, use the people around you. That was the best $30, $40, whatever, that I've ever spent in my life, because they were like, oh, this is the guy you call on the drywall, and don't do this. I messed up on that. And make sure you do this kind of insulation. Like, there's so much value in that, but in wisdom from others. But it makes it a lot easier to bet on yourself when you have a lot better idea of what, when you have all the wisdom and knowledge that you can gain. Instead of just like, well, I like cars, so I'm going to quit my job tomorrow and start working on cars. Like, that's not using logic. That's not using wisdom. Like, there has to be. You have to do your due diligence. Bible says that we have to count the costs. So before you do something, count the costs. So because you don't want to look foolish, and so that's the counting the cost. Is if you're going to bet on yourself and you're going to make that investment, whatever it is, you need to count the costs and use due diligence. So
yeah, and what I like about what you do, man, like, you've created this ecosystem, like an automobile, motorcycle ecosystem, where it could take it from buying to salvage to performance, and I like how your trajectory went, because it was like you went from one and you mastered it, and you weren't even really thinking about the next paradigm until that one was really rolling. And then I could tell that you were, once things were like perfected, it was like right at the height of everything working. You're like, I'm going to start the next one. And I think like you have the story you tell is just so amazingly and perfectly timed. You make it sound easy, honestly. And I know a lot of people are thinking, and they know it's not easy, but maybe explain some of the individual challenges that came up in those shifts, because the way, like, it does sound so easy. It's like, man, I just want to start an ecosystem today.
Yeah, no, that's good, because that really, so, in that timeline I talked about originally, in 19, we started that salvage business, and then 20, we started the dealer. Mm-hmm. Guess which business is the weakest? It's salvage business, because we did not, even though we did it for 10 years, before we did it as its solo owned company, it was always kind of a side gig whenever we have time, whatever. Well, now it's its own thing. It's got its own employees, its own staff, its own management. And so, and it's no dig to any of those people. What it is that J&B had 15 years or 13 years, whatever it was, to perfect itself and to figure out, this is the market, this is how we do the job. And we've had pivot in there. We had a pretty major pivot in the last year or so in this company, but we keep making it better and making it better and making it better and making it better. Well, then we did the salvage deal as its own solo deal, and then we did it for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden the car dealer stuff came up. Well, and the car dealer, I mean, I'm a person that I love the do, I love the exciting. It's it's this new thing, and now I just go buy cars, and then they show up, and it's like, even if it's a bucket, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take this down the road. It's my new bucket. So and then you start getting nicer stuff, that's even more exciting. But all that being said, the salvage street business really lacked, to the point that about probably a year and a half ago, something like that, I had a meeting with management. It was being real, like, hey, do we shut this thing down? Like, it's not, it pays its bills, but it's not profitable.
Right.
We're gaining some assets, but I don't really want more assets in that realm of more used salvage cars. I want cash.
Yeah,
if I'm going to do this, I'm going to try to make some money here. And so we had to have that conversation, but it was another pivot point of like, okay, here's what we're doing wrong. Like, and that was the light bulb went off at that time. It was like, nobody's doing anything wrong necessarily. It's that we hadn't committed to it the way the dealer had been committed to. Because when the dealer started and it started making money and cars are flowing, it's the new thing. Well, then that got completely put aside. Basically, it was like, well, yeah, I'll give that 5 hours a week, and I'm going to give the dealer 20 hours a week,
right?
30 hours a week. That's how it worked out, and it was the same way with pretty much everybody involved. And so we actually, like I said, about a year ago, we had that pivot point of like, are we going to do this or not? And we ended up saying, yeah, we're going to do it. It's established, it works, it's set up. It just we haven't invested the time to get the systems in place, to make everything function the way it should. And so that has been a big goal of ours. And it still doesn't get the time it should get, but it gets way more time than it used to. And so now that's been a goal of ours to like, okay, let's hire some key people that are sharp, that can run this thing, that can, not just people that I have to tell them how to do every single thing in my community, but key people that can run it. They can have people, staff underneath them, and they can make this work, and we can set goals, and they're going to be hungry to meet those goals. And they get paid off of performance, and give them a reason to work hard and to be committed and be all in for it. And so we've seen good growth in that. We still have a lot of ideas and a lot of things that need to change there, but we're definitely on a much better track than we were a year and a half, 2 years ago. I mean, again, we're like, hey, I don't have enough pride in it to not say that, hey, this didn't work, and we're going to shut it down. But I'm very glad at this point that we didn't shut it down. We took the time to analyze. We had 2, 3, 4 hour lunch meeting, and then a week later, we come back to the table and have a 2, 3, 4 hour lunch meeting. We did that for weeks and weeks and weeks until we finally like, okay, I've had time to process the new things here. You've had time to process the new things here. Let's start implementing these. Let's start finding some people, and it's been good. So, wow. But yeah, that's the part that's the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It still exists, it still functions, but it's not what it could be. And it really, and I'll say too, that really comes down to people a lot of times. Something that I've definitely had to learn is, I have to let go of a lot of stuff that I don't want to let go of. But the only way that we're going to be successful and we're going to grow is to let quality people take the reins on a bunch of stuff. And that salvage street now, I'm involved a couple hours a week at the most. The dealer, I'm involved probably 5, maybe 10 tops, probably closer to 5 hours a week at the most. J&B, I can actually go home and have a normal life. I mean, I'm here doing something 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. I mean, but that's, to me, I enjoy it. So it's not work so much. I mean, it's work sometimes, but it's not painful for me to be here. I don't have a problem committing, 50, 60, 65 hours a week to it. but we travel a lot and do all that kind of stuff to get away as well. So, I mean, because I have the people in place and I've grown away from the micromanagement and let them take the reins and let them make mistakes.
Yeah.
Something I learned from a friend recently. His boss gave him a new account and to buy cars at a new place, and he made a couple of mistakes. Not because he actually made mistakes, but it's purely out of ignorance of I don't know how to do this. Mm-hmm. I've never done it before. And so they lost money on some vehicles. And his boss told him, well, like, how are you going to learn unless you get out there and do it? Like, if I sit there and hold your hand and show you how to do every single little thing, you're never going to learn how to do it right. And no one here has the mentality that they want to lose. Everyone here wants to be winners. Right. And so we've had that here. I've had some times when I've bit my tongue. I really should tell him that he should do that, but I didn't. And we've lost money and we've had things go wrong, but I don't have to ever tell that person about those things. Absolutely. Because they've learned it. Like that lesson for them, that was a valuable lesson. It might have cost me $1,500, $2,000, whatever, but I don't have to be on vacation and be like, I need to tell them to do that like I have done for the last 2 years. I don't have to do that anymore because I know they're going to take care of it because they don't like losing. So, so that's something that's the behind the scenes part and the people and having the power of having amazing people and an amazing team that you're not stuck there trying to do it all on your own and trying to bootstrap the whole entire thing. Yeah. So, but that's new to me because I've never had, as I was saying, like we moved here in 2013, I had 3 employees. We built that building, and I think we had maybe around 8 employees when we did that building we moved in 2019. Well, there's 30, 35, I don't even know how many people are here, 30, 35 people running around here now. But it's because I've had to learn like the layers part of like, it's okay to have this person completely take over this whole thing. And I may not know anything about the process anymore. And that's hard for me. Like they do stuff up with the dealer that I have. If somebody came in and was like, I'd like to buy a car today, and there was everybody else was sick that day, I would be like, you're just going to have to come back another day. So, but that's okay. Right. It's okay to be at that point to let loose of that, because otherwise I would just have too much time investment and I couldn't do things that I need.
You'd be a cap.
I think honing in on what you're good at is vital, at least at the level that I'm at now, having quite a few people below me. But if you're going out in the shop and showing every single person how to do every little thing, and you're just going to drive yourself crazy. Like you have to let people make mistakes. You have to have people learn from their mistakes. You have to give people an opportunity to do something better than your idea is anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, there's certainly people here that do things better than I ever did because they found a way or did it a way that I always thought it was best to do it this way, but they have a better way.
Right.
So, but you have to provide those opportunities.
Well, and just overlooking what maybe the short-term cost may be, if they make a mistake.
Sure.
But I would bet a lot of those short-term mistakes, a grand here, grand there, whatever else, has actually on the backside of them learning, your business has been able to grow multipliers ahead of what you actually lost on that small mistake.
Yeah. And you saved it somewhere else. You might have lost it there, but you saved it somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
That's true.
So,
absolutely. I have a question. I have two-part question, I guess, for the people and culture that you have. So how do you handle wrong people situations, which is someone that's really not a fit for the business? And then how do you handle wrong seat situations, which is really someone that's a really good fit for the business, but maybe they're doing the wrong, maybe they're in the wrong position.
Yeah. So we have had for probably the past year and a half, like an incredible focus on culture and the culture of this place, and that this is how it is here. And I think protecting that culture at all costs is difficult. We've had some solid employees here that they just don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I don't mean they don't fit like they don't wear the right clothes or something. I mean, they don't fit like they go and talk trash about people behind their back, or they're complaining all day. They just have a negative mindset, and everything's negative. And why does that guy make more money than me here? You know, it's like, I don't care if you can put out 60 hours worth of work in 30 hours. If you have that mindset, you got to go. Right. Because it's a cancer. Mm-hmm. It spreads just like cancer. I mean, and then all of a sudden you've got good employees that are culture fit employees, and they do fit that way. But it's when you're constantly fed something, you know, the negativity, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't think about that before. And now they've got a negative viewpoint of somebody, or why is that person doing that? That, you know, they shouldn't be doing that. That's my job or whatever. And so that's something that we've definitely learned to very highly protect. Yep. And I cannot stand getting rid of people. That's way out of my comfort zone. Yep. But we've had to do that, unfortunately, and have people, hey, this is not going to work. You know, no disrespect, but you're just going to have to go. Right. It's just not going to work. You know, and they know it. Yeah. I mean, if you're here within 2, 3, 4 weeks, you know whether you're fit or not. Right. More of that housekeeping has been from the side of like, we worked that culture so much, and now we're incredibly embracing that culture, pushing our culture, and then we have people that just won't conform. And I understand that, you know, if you came in someplace and it was one way and now it's different. I mean, we're not forcing religion or forcing anything on anybody other than like, hey, come in with a good attitude and just give me all I'm asking for is to give me your best. You know, come in on time, give me your best, give me a good attitude. That's about it. You know, don't talk about people behind our back. Like the culture, we have a stronger culture with, you know, management and people that are there's certainly a large group of people here that are all in. You know, but as far as everybody, like, you have to fit there, or it's just not going to work. As far as the second part of your question, we definitely have had that as well. We've had people that come in, they get hired for a certain position. They're not necessarily that good at that position, or they're stronger in a different position, and we just pivot. Okay. And I mean, we give them the option, but usually if they're stronger somewhere, that's what they're going to want to go in. Yep. So as long as it doesn't financially impact them or something like that, that's usually where they're going to go. Nice. And so we have really not had any resistance at all in that shape of taking somebody from a position that we thought they fit pre-hire, but after they're here for a couple weeks or a month, or whatever, for a few months, we determined like, hey, that's not necessarily the best place for them. We should move them around. One of my managers, Zach, I bet he's had 6, 7, 8 different job titles, and he's been here for 5 years. Love it. You know, so but he's willing. Mm-hmm. He has an attitude of a willingness to conform and to adapt and to change and meet what his strengths are. And he, you know, he's even one of those people, which is how I am as well. Like, he wants to be a part of everything. Right. And so for me to come to him and be like, hey, this is just not working. You're spread too thin, trying to do 5 things, you know, halfway decent, and let's just do 2 things really good, you know, and I'm gonna have to move you out of this and move you out of that or whatever, you know. And but it's been because of his attitude and his willingness, it's been really good. He's not where he wants to be today. He's not doing the things that he wants to really do, but he knows that it's all preparation. Yep. He's preparing now for the future, you know. So I mean, we're all in those positions at the time. We're doing the things that we don't want to do, but it's part of the growth and the learning and preparing for what's next. Yeah, and now he knows the business from 5 different angles. Yeah, that's so valuable. So,
that is valuable.
A perspective that really only I have.
Yeah.
We're the only out of 30-something people that had that perspective.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I came from, like, an ADD background, and I had 31 jobs before I started my own business, and and that gave me the perspective of, almost every industry.
Yeah.
And then I was able to look back and be like, okay, I know exactly what's going on when I'm looking at vendors, and that gave me a whole different perspective. Even though the 31 jobs kind of felt like failures at times, you know, when I came out to owning my own business, I'm like, this actually works out pretty well. Just like that, different angles.
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
Justin, what are some qualities or characteristics? And we've talked a lot about them already, but what are some exact qualities and characteristics that beginning business owners need to develop to win long term?
I think definitely you have to have that all-in attitude. I mean, if you come into it half-hearted or like, well, let's see if this works, it's not. I mean, you might as well stop now, honestly. So you have to be passionate about it. Something that, that a lot of small business, until you own a small business, people just don't get is you don't clock out at 5. I mean, it's not 8 to 5. It's not 7 to 6. It is 24/7. There might be, just stuff comes up. I mean, I've answered the phone on Sundays. I can't even remember how many times. I've responded to emails at 2 in the morning. I can't even remember how many times. So you have to be all in, like with everything you have. So that's certainly, a required characteristic of if you're going to do it. If you're going to be a small business owner, a successful small business owner. I think another one that, like I said, passion. You have to be passionate about it. I mean, if you're not passionate about dogs, don't be a dog owner. I mean, be passionate about something that whatever you're passionate about, that's where you're going to go. I knew at an early age, I was into cars. I didn't know what that meant. I went to college for engineering.
Wow.
I mean, you see me today, I'm not an engineer. I went to college for welding. I never went to college. I have no automotive training at all in any way, shape, or form. No degrees, no certifications, nothing. But I grew up around cars. I loved cars, went to car shows, went to races. So that's my passion was cars. And I beat around the bush at 3 different, I have, 2 different degrees, that are not directly related to cars, but, and one attempt at a degree that I failed at. But finally it was like light bulb, like this is what you're into. It's not, there's that old saying or whatever, you never go to a work a day in your life if you do something you love.
Yep.
Right. Something like that. But I mean, that's the truth though. I mean, it's not sunshine and rainbows every day. That's for sure. But I mean, but I can go home and feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of satisfaction, of pride, healthy pride in what we're doing, and being excited. When I wake up, I'm excited. I'm not dreading it. I mean, even if there's drama, in something, or I know there's going to be drama that day or whatever, I'm resolving a problem, whatever it might be. There's still excitement. There's a reason to get up and passion. So you definitely passion, all in. And like I said earlier, just I think what's really done really well or part of our motto here, and that's really made us be successful, is that everything with excellence. I mean, if you're going to do it all the way, to the best of your ability. And if you don't know how to do it, and you're not going to know how to do it all, then learn from somebody that does. Even if that's Google research and YouTube videos, and it's Google research and YouTube videos. If it's getting a mentor in that place, get a mentor. But that's part of the all in. The all in is not like, well, I just don't know how to do it, so I'm just going to halfway finish it up.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You have to do everything with that attitude of excellence. I think that's critical. I mean, we J&B itself has never formally advertised. Still to this day, 18 years in business, small businesses don't make it anywhere near that long. And we're as busy today as we've ever been, but it's purely word of mouth, nothing else. Our only advertising is the Facebook page and website. But and I don't mean that in any kind of like prideful way, but I'm just saying that it's because of our reputation and
Right.
our word of mouth, and we haven't always got it right. I mean, obviously, but the due diligence of, hey, if you screw it up, make it as right as you can make it. Try to make it right. And we've had times that we've lost thousands, tens of thousands of dollars even making it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a painful day when that happens, but it's part of being able to sleep at night too. And know that, hey, I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I screwed up, and I'm going to own it. And I guess that's another point, but just having that mindset of like, I've got to own this. It's not right. It's my fault, or it's our fault, or somehow involved in it. So, but having that mindset that it's critical.
Absolutely.
I think that's critical to having a successful business is those characteristics for sure.
Absolutely.
So, and just being driven, so what's next, and what are we going to do, and what we're going to learn. So never being satisfied in a healthy way.
You're right.
I mean, but they say never being satisfied, like it's more of like never not being complacent. I look back now, and I have friends that started businesses years before me, and I've passed them up, and they're like, oh, you're big time, whatever, they kind of give me trouble, but I think I look and see like what did they do to get to where they were? They were an inspiration that whole time. Like I was looking at them, what are they doing? Like, oh, he's building a new building now, and he's doing this, and watching what they did, and now it's on the other end. But it was that I watched them get to a place that's like, well, this is just what we do. This is what we do, and we come in and we do this every day. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're happy with that, if you're content with that, that's fine. That's just not who I am. I always do the next thing, and what can we do greater and whatever. But I think that's a big part of it, is just having, like not being complacent, or not having a, like, well, this is good enough attitude. That's definitely part of our culture too, is we hate complacency.
Yeah.
We hate it.
Have to.
We will not stand. We don't stand for it here. If employees have it, it's brought up immediately, and we have to constantly be trying to improve, constantly trying to get better, and we're never going to settle for status quo or good enough. That's not acceptable. So any need of business.
Yeah.
So
has it the past 18 years, how many seasons of comfort was there? So what I mean by that is, has the past 18 years, 99% of it been uncomfortable?
The last, I would say, that's definitely comes down to how you define comfort.
Yeah.
But there definitely was a season for years and years that we just kind of did the same thing, and we weren't necessarily looking to grow or to expand, and we felt limited by the size of our property and buildings and what we could do there, and so there is times like that it's comfortable, and you kind of step back a little bit, and but for the most part, that you don't get to get real comfortable. I mean, that's just, I don't think you should be able to get real comfortable if you're really trying to grow something. You should always be pushing the envelope of your mental capabilities, physical capabilities, and how far you can go and how much you can push. And I think that I really do think that it's good and healthy to have seasons of that comfort, but those should be pre and post doing something that's quite a bit out of your comfort zone. So if you're going to, like I told that story earlier, whenever we got our house done, it was just no, like we're not interested in going to dinner with you. We love you. We're not interested in going to dinner with you. No, we're not interested in doing anything at all. But that was like a comfort zone we had to live in, of like, I was totally okay being completely complacent for a few months because I had to recover from being completely uncomfortable and out of my comfort zone in every single way you could be out of your comfort zone, financially, mentally, physically, and all those things, and being completely exhausted really is what it came down to. But I think that there's seasons for it. But I think as a pre and a post uncomfortable area is really the only I shouldn't say acceptable, but I mean to me that's the only acceptable time to have seasons like that. Mm-hmm. So and again that kind of it's how you would define comfort and how you define season, but I mean something that kind of we're in a place now, like I told before, that we can get away a little bit more and travel a little bit more, even as we're growing like we've never grown before, but we've built margin in to be able to do those things. And so, but I think that's part of the comfort is for us is that we're going to give it everything. I'm going to give it everything I've got. My wife's going to give it everything she's got until we get on the call, and then and then we can have our comfort zone for a week, and we can turn it all off, and we can say like, it's okay, like it's going to be taken care of. Right. It's not necessarily the way I would do it. That's all right. It'll work out, and having that comfort zone, and then coming back, because it's like I want to be all in while I'm here, and I want to be all in on vacation while I'm on vacation. I want to give my wife my best, my family my best, whatever it may be, and not be wrapped up in emails and phone calls, text messages, trying to make sure that everything in the office is working or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the comfort zone as well, is having scheduling margin and building margin, and then knowing, I had a meeting with a friend, him and his wife are looking to possibly buy this building and do all this reno and kind of some of the stuff that we've done. And I told him up front, I was like, this is embrace the suck, because it's gonna suck. You're gonna be broke, you're gonna be tired, you're gonna be exhausted, and you're still gonna have to do everything that you do every day. Yep. And then you're going to be doing this other thing too. It's like you're taking on two jobs, basically at that point. But embrace the suck, but prepare that with an expectation of it's going to suck, but I'm going to love it at the end. I'm going to be able to see, the fruits of my labor at the end of it. But rest up to it. Don't come into it in a season of chaos and a season of whatever, and then throw that on your plate too.
Right.
Have rest, have a break up to it, and then plan for that afterwards. In the middle of our house build, we purposely planned a vacation for over a week, tropical vacation in the middle of our house build, because we knew it was going to be absolutely insane in the middle of it, and we were going to have a break of some kind, even though we're paying interest every day on a house we're not living in, like 2 house payment, and it's not done, and this isn't done. It's like we had to do it. We had to have that break in the middle of that storm, because in the middle of that chaos, just for mental health.
Absolutely. And, but really you had to, where you're at now, are you able to plan those pullbacks, of taking yourself out of the uncomfortableness of every day running a business, right? It's uncomfortable. You have to make decisions. You're leading 30, 35 employees. You have a lot going on. You had a lot of sacrifice on the front end of that, though, in these years preceding today. A lot of sacrifice. Sure. What are some sacrifices? Was it a sacrifice financially? Was it a sacrifice in seasons of having to say no to certain things? Was there sacrifices of potentially hanging out with friend time? So on and so forth. Can you dive into some of those sacrifices that earlier on that you had to sacrifice to build?
Sure. I think definitely, again, it's a huge time commitment, and anything with time, anything with time or finances, saying yes to this, building a new building, starting a new business venture, whatever you're doing, saying yes to that is saying no to something else. And it's no different with your finances. It's the exact same thing. So saying yes to ask my wife, and saying yes to the next building or to the next property or the next whatever, was saying no to a vacation home or no to a whatever it might be, to a camper, to whatever, some of the things that she's had on her heart for years. So, that's the sacrifice side of it is that you're always going to give up something for another thing. I had definitely struggled with a lot of issues. Maybe I'm not there anymore, but a few years ago and certainly earlier in the business, I'm just not being the dad that I wanted to be. Because I had to do this, and I'm very big picture, and I'm very like, well, I'm just going to get through this, and then when I'm done with that, then I'll have time for this or that, and I would get through with it, and then I would have time until I came up with the next thing, and then I would fill it up, then family time was sacrificed, and vacations, with my wife was sacrificed, and going and doing this or that, like all that stuff was sacrificed. Going to car meets and going to hang out with friends and going to serve a church, whatever it might be. All those things took a hit, and but my recommendation there, I know I said all in. I do absolutely believe that with everything that I've got in me, but I think very early on in owning your own small business, you really, really, really learn time management skills. It's crucial. I've got an incredibly understanding family, an incredibly understanding wife. Most women would have been long gone with me. Just to be honest. So because they don't understand the commitment level that, and I don't just mean like women, I'm just saying spouses in general, just don't necessarily understand the commitment level that it requires to do something to the fullest like this. And it doesn't shut off, like I said, it's 24/7. So, but something I've really worked on the last few years is just timing and scheduling family and scheduling, putting things on the calendar, putting vacations on the calendar. We went for years without vacation. We could have gone on vacation, but it was like, I just can't go. Because if I go, then, the whole world burns down.
Yeah.
But scheduling those things and saying, these are priorities too. And they are priorities not only just for your family and all those things, but for mental health and for your marriage and for, because you can come back stronger. Like if you never take time to reflect, you never take time to slow down, you're always in the middle of it, then you can't ever pull back and say, oh, well, why are we doing it that way? Like there's a better way to do that. Or what if we did this instead? Yeah. I had a season real recently where it was just go forever. And then actually I had to go stop what I was doing immediately and go pick up a broken down vehicle. And so hooked up the truck and trailer, and I'm on the road. And I'm mad. My hot dinner at home is getting cold now, and I'm wasting my night, going to the whatever. But I was like, I'm going to take this opportunity right now to turn the radio off, to just quiet my mind, to reflect on how good things are, not how aggravating the situation is, but how good things are, and just pray and just and in that, within 20 minutes, 15 minutes, I had a new idea for a new picture that I had never had before, and just how to make that work and just new thoughts, but like just the power of rest. And I know that's beating around the bush again.
This is amazing.
But just having the power of rest and just having that time to reflect and not have an agenda, so make that a priority. That I know and that's a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice that's worth it. So you're not. It's a sacrifice in the sense of like, oh, I'm not getting this done today, and I've got people at my butt to get it done. Yeah. I get that side of it, but you can't if you're so invested in the day to day that you don't have time to think about what tomorrow's going to be, then you're never going to
Yep.
grow. You have to have that time for reflection, time for like thinking about what's next and how can we make it better and whatever. But but I mean, they're definitely. I mean, again, like I said, I told my friend, embrace the suck. I mean, that's part. You have to go into it with that attitude of like, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's not going to be like, well, my own boss now, so I can leave work all I want. I can do. I mean, I think a lot of people.
That's so true.
Work, but it's not that way.
No.
You have to be incredibly dedicated to it, but time management. I mean, make that a priority. If you're gonna invest in growing as a person, I'm not talking about growing your business. I'm talking about growing as a person. If you're gonna invest in, and it's hard growing as a business, but invest in learning about time management and how to. I mean, so I found that if I just sit down at my desk, I will basically waste an hour of time doing something that I could probably do in 15 minutes. Where if I just went out there and worked for an hour and I did all my emails in 5-10 minutes every 2 hours, instead of like almost sitting at the desk waiting for the next email to come, or like, well, let's just look on Facebook for an idea about this. Well, I'm going to go over here and look at the auction for 10-15 minutes. Like, and in the end of it, when I have a day like that, at the end of that day, I'm like, I did absolutely nothing. I got nothing at all.
Yep.
Whereas if I'm just like, okay, I'm going in here, I'm going to work out here on the floor for 4 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. I'm going to take lunch. On lunch, I'm going to take a 5-10 minutes for myself. And then I'm going to come back from lunch, check emails, and then I'm going right back out there. Like, I come home so much more satisfied, so much more happy with how much I got done, so much more got done, and so, but just having those time management skills is huge, and scheduling time for yourself, scheduling time for family, you got to do it.
Yeah. And that's, we actually created a little planner for business owners that it's called time blocking, so you write out your 4 or 5 tasks that you want to get done that day, and you actually you plan your day out. You say, hey, for this hour from 8 to 9, I'm doing this. From 9 to 10, I'm having thinking time. From 11 to 11:30, I'm having lunch. And you plot it out instead of kind of taking the random approach. And you see, productivity go up. To your performance, skyrocket. It really is a game changer. And the whole, taking time to think. Like, that's so important for business owners, because we're always on the go, go. We're putting out fires. The only thing that you have to create space for clarity, just like that car ride you took. That space, that quiet time you took brought clarity on how to do things probably a little bit smarter and not harder, because our first reaction is like, hey, how do I bust through this wall? And it's like, wait, let's do it smarter. I'll go rent a machine, to bust through the wall. So that's so good, Justin. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I feel like we could probably, you're so insightful. I mean, really so much. I mean, for real, like people that are starting, people that are in it 15, 20 years. There is so many things inside this podcast right here, this episode, that you need to go back and listen to, because Justin, like I said, he's the real deal. Like, you can tell just how he speaks and his language that he uses, that he emphasizes the right things, probably out of learning and growing, but Justin, we always try to leave our audience with one last question. Okay. And that question is, what's one thing, if you had a group of business owners in front of you, what's one thing you would tell them to become limitless? And when I say limitless, it's without end. It's has no limit. Kind of, honestly, I would say you're a limitless business owner. It's like you're always finding opportunity. So what's one thing you can tell them to become limitless?
For me, I feel like I've already touched on a lot of that. It's just, it's hard for me to put into one thing, but it's that everything with excellence, and you don't be complacent, and never give up on yourself, and never stop. And I know that's a lot of stuff, but one thing for sure for me that I think has really brought me to where I'm at is my faith. And, I know that's not necessarily, everybody's thing, but having that, God has used these businesses to do and grow and to do the things that we're doing, just incredibly. And I think that by me relying on His strength, that this is my limitless is because of Him.
Yeah.
It's like I'm relying on His strength. I'm looking daily to what talents and abilities and gifts He's given me that I can either squander, or I can use them to the fullest. And I don't want to squander something that's given to me. So, so that really is the drive and the motivation for me is my faith and like I want to hear that well done, good and faithful servant. Today. So, but having that attitude of like I'm not just even doing this for me. It's not about me. It's about people. It's about relationships. It's about using the gifts and the abilities that God's given me to just make the world a little bit better place. And I think that for me is the limitless is using those giftings. And I'll kind of end on a testimony. I shared this at our grand opening actually, but so whenever this car dealer started, my true focus was like, this is going to be a side gig, and I'm going to use this to buy an exotic car because I've wanted an exotic car for a long time. And, you got the posters on your wall as a kid, and I wanted to fulfill, and I'm 40 now, midlife crisis stuff. Riding dirt bikes and buying exotic, it's like I'm trying to fulfill those places in my life right now. But that was the goal was the exotic car. There was no goals about people. There was no goals about relationship. There was no goals about hiring people that are going to be able to take care of their families now because they're working here. None of those were the goals. The goal was Justin wants a Ferrari. That's the goal. So I say that because we've really focused on leadership training. We've really focused on people, and a lot of the good people around me have really held me accountable to using my talents and gifts and ability to not just further my kingdom, but really just to further God's kingdom, And so through all that, we had a great first year, we had a great second year, and through all that, what happened was I had a heart shift in the middle of all that, and my heart became out of love with things. And I like things, okay, still to this day, I love things.
You have some cool things, Justin.
But my true heart is not about things anymore. It's about furthering God's kingdom, building relationships, serving people. It's about people. I mean, really, it comes down to people. And so when my heart changed on that, I think that's really what blew a lot of this up too. Was God was like, hey, if you're going to get your heart right, you've got this right, you might be doing right things with finances and giving and tithing, whatever, but now you got your heart right about people. And I'm going to really blow this thing up now because you're kingdom minded now, and not Justin's kingdom, but God's kingdom minded. And through all that stuff, I think that's really huge growth that I've had, personal growth that I've had in the last couple of years, and just really the drive to come into work and give it everything I've got every day, because not so I can put more money in the bank account, but it's like so I can do something bigger than that. Absolutely. Like my purpose is much bigger than for me or for my family. It's so much greater than that. But that's what keeps me limitless and not ever being satisfied. Is just like I'm going to be all about people and furthering God's kingdom and bringing glory and honor, because that's really what it's all about. Yeah. So, and I did get the Ferrari.
I was going to say,
and I like the Ferrari, but the Ferrari where I had to go,
Yeah.
then it has to go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my identity is not wrapped up in having a Ferrari or having the businesses or having whatever, like that's not who I am, so that doesn't mean I can't enjoy nice things, but that's not who I am. So, and that's not what we're about.
Nice.
Absolutely. Well, Justin, hey man, thank you so much for your candidness, your openness, sharing your story, and just being so insightful for all our listeners.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me for sure. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. Hey, if you haven't rated or reviewed the show yet, please take 2 to 3 minutes to do so right now on whatever platform you listen on. It really helps the show rank better when people are searching for new podcasts to listen to. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, where we post daily clips from the episode. And then we're just going to ask you to share those clips, right? You never know who of your friends are going to see that clip, and then they're going to start listening to the episode, and then their life changes because they hear something that really helps them overcome a challenge that they're experiencing in their business. It's really going to help them create breakthrough in their business and become limitless. Also, one last thing, right now we are offering a free 7-day trial into our Inner Circle group, Limitless Business Owners Inner Circle. And inside this elite group, you get to learn how you can experience immense, consistent growth inside your business, where you learn the strategies and tactics to grow your business, right? Surround yourself with like-minded people, other business owners that are experiencing what you're experiencing, that are going through it right now, that you can build key relationships with and learn from. And also some people ahead of you that can also teach you something that's going to help you overcome something in your business right now. And then last thing, you can leverage the strategies and tactics it takes to build your dreams and fulfill your purpose. Talk soon.